There are times in life when no matter what you try, it does not work. It does not give you the results that you want, and you feel exhausted, frustrated, tired, and down. Do you know what actually this indicates? What does it actually mean? At times, you just lose it. You react. You don't want to, but you just can't help it. Do you know why it happens and what it actually means? There are at least two things such situations indicate. Let's look into what they are and what you need to do in order to transform them. And if this is your first time here, hey, welcome to the next episode of Direct Happiness. My name is Dr. Maruti Sharma, and I've spent 25 years of my life on my mission to help you feel more happiness, feel more freedom, feel more freshness, and feel true love in this lifetime. Whether when things stop working, you feel exhausted, down, or tired, or you react in any situation, it reflects two things about you. Number one, you are trapped in distress. And number two, your reaction is a reflection of the stress response you're trapped into. Just taking conscious note of these two and knowing that you're trapped in distress and you need to deal with distress first is a great step. It's great progress because many a times the moment distress disappears, the problems disappear too. And we all know that most people in a problem challenge situation, they begin with a problem first. They think by solving the problem, the distress will just vanish. And it doesn't happen. It just makes the situation worse. The distress goes up. And the reason is when we are under distress, our brain does not function at its top capacity. And if you want to know more about it, how all this works, here's a link to a video I have on this specific topic. So, how do people deal with distress? What keeps people trapped in distress? There are four typical responses that keep people stuck. Let's take a quick look at them. The first response is flight. This means you turn off, you escape. So you see a threat that is causing you distress, and your body, mind, soul feels that you do not have the resources to tackle the problem, the challenge, or the source of distress. You escape from the situation because that's the best thing for you to do in that situation according to your body's default response. So people escape and we call it flight. The second response, let's call it the fight response. In this case, when people face a threat that is causing them distress and they feel they have the resources to neutralize or destroy or attack the threat, the source of threat, they go for it. They overreact, they become aggressive. And this is typically the fight response. Let's call the third response freeze, because the person is not able to either run away or attack the problem. The person appears indecisive and remains stuck, frozen, is not capable of taking any action in a situation. And the fourth response, let's call it fawn. This means when there's distress from a source and you don't know how to tackle it, you just surrender to a higher authority that you feel has the power to make the best decision for you. You just give up, and whatever you're told, you just do it. You just fall in line. Here is one important point. The four responses that we just touched, they're not negative or bad. They're simply four ways that are sort of default to our body to minimize pain and to increase our probability of surviving in this world. The problem happens when a person gets stuck in one of these responses. When one of these four responses becomes a default response, so no matter what the situation is, it triggers the default stress response. That's the problem. That's the challenge that we need to tackle. Here is something I'd like you to consider. Pay special attention that in any distress situation, your response should be strategic. It means it takes you toward what you want, your goals, and not reactive, the one that you are trapped into. So, the challenge for most people in a distress situation is twofold. Number one, they remain stuck with one response that becomes their default response in all the situations. And number two, the flexibility to choose the most appropriate response is missing. Now, let's take a look at the most appropriate, the ideal response in any situation that you have to train yourself into. I call it free. It means three things when you practice it. Number one, you are aware of all the options that you have in any given situation. Number two, you have sufficient relaxation to choose the most appropriate strategic response that will get you what you want, your end goals. And number three, you're not trapped in your default distress response. Here is a quick example of the masters of the free response. These are kids. They have the flexibility to shift their responses as per the situation. When kids want something, they try all four. They become aggressive, or they become quiet, or they become disinterested, or they pretend to choke. And these four responses in different order are usually enough for the parent to give in. Here's the first step. Next time you are in any distress situation, make two observations. First, accept that you're stuck in distress. And number two, make sure that you identify your default distress response and make conscious effort not to engage in it. Instead, choose the most appropriate strategic response that is in alignment with your vision for life. And when life is beautiful, peaceful, and nice, this is the time to practice. You must train your body, mind, and soul to remain free, to remain aware, and to remain flexible. And always remember, no matter what, take it easy and feel happy.